Okay, thanks very much.
Do you want to use the microphone or
I can stand up here and at least throw this up here for a second, and I'll walk around. Well, thanks so much for having me here today. I got here in Central Oregon in July permanently. Originally from the Valley, my wife and I lived for 21 years in the Rock Creek area near Hillsboro and have 3 children. We were just visiting them last week. Daughter just got married about a month ago, is living up in the San Juan Islands, which is quite a feat as a young person to be living up there. Son who's working for the University of Washington, Bothell, living in Bothell with our grandson, who we had a hard time leaving, and then daughter who's working in Seattle as well. So had a great weekend last weekend. I spent the Oregon Athletic Directors Association's annual conferences at Sun River in April, so I've been over here a number of times, and families vacationed over here for about 22 summers in a row. So I've known about the area, but it sure is a beautiful area, and I'm grateful to be in this position. Hope to share with you a few things today about the job that I'm doing and about high school athletics in this area and a little broader sweep as well. So if you have any questions, I'll have some time at the end. I'm really glad to be with you today. Stories told about a service where the pastor asked if anyone in the congregation would like to express thanks for prayers which had been answered. And a lady stood up and came forward. She said, "I have a reason to thank the Lord. 2 months ago, my husband Jim had a terrible bicycle wreck and his scrotum was completely crushed. The pain was excruciating and the doctors didn't know if we could help him." You could hear an audible gasp from the men in the congregation as they imagined the pain that poor Jim experienced. She continued, "Jim was unable to hold near the children. Every move caused him terrible pain. We prayed as the doctors performed a delicate operation. They were able to piece together the crushed remnants of Jim's scrotum and wrap wire around it to hold it in place. Again, the men in the congregation squirmed uncomfortably as they imagined the horrible surgery performed on Jim. Now Jim's out of the hospital, and the doctors say with time his scrotum should recover completely, and all the men sighed with relief. The pastor rose and tentatively asked if anyone else had anything to say. A man rose and walked slowly to the podium. He said, "Hi, I'm Jim, and I'd like to tell my wife that the word is sternum." Telling that joke, you either get thrown out of meetings like this or you get some laughter. I know my wife would do that to me without a thought. She gets things mixed up pretty good, and she would do that to me at church with no compunction whatsoever. So, well, I want to talk to you today about a couple things. The first one is why high school sports still matter. You know, for some of us that have experienced sport either as a coach, I met one here today from Alaska, and his investment and involvement, which is fantastic. We have a student athlete here. I myself was a high school athlete at Sunset High School in Beaverton. Participated in a state championship game that we won against Roseburg in 1975 as a basketball player. Why does it still matter? You know, for a lot of people, they think a tremendous cost, which is really 1 to 3% of most school district budgets, is the cost of athletics. It's an extension of the classroom, and at least it is if we make it. It's easy to make some of these statements about athletics, we all nod our head, but truly if we have coaches that are invested in the lives of kids for more than just technique and tactic, they can have a remarkable impact that lasts a lifetime. I know my high school coach had that kind of impact on me. Better educational outcomes. We require, it's nothing like Sierra doesn't even blink at this because she's an AP student, she's involved in about every club you can imagine, and very successful, but we hold kids to a high standard that are involved in athletics. They have to meet a standard academically. So it keeps them engaged and hopefully graduating. That's the obvious goal. Healthier behaviors. We have training rules. Not every high school student is required to follow training rules. Our athletes are. So no smoking, no drinking, no use of drugs, alcohol, tobacco, and those rules are held up. Developing better citizens. There's research that goes on that talks about the involvement in high school sport and the impact of your life down the line. And so it does still matter. And then we've seen kids that are involved in sport and other activities like that, band, choir, drama, clubs, have more success later on. Here's our athletic participation in Redmond this year. We had 220 student athletes at Redmond and 199 at Ridgeview. You can see the breakdown there. So when we think about how many are being involved, when I was going to high school in the 70s, and I know for some of you, gender equity wasn't even discussed. We have 2 daughters. They got to participate in high school sport, you know, a little bit later than me, but fun to see the opportunities they had. Really fun to go travel to Crescent Valley to watch Sierra play in a quarterfinal soccer championship, and to know that without that commitment to gender equity, who knows if Sierra would have even had that opportunity. And I will tell you this, Sierra is a formidable presence in the back of a soccer lineup. I would not want to even think about trying to score on Sierra. She would take care of business. So, how many kids are in each school roughly? We've got about 900 in each school. So when you think about, Redmond alone, yeah, please ask any questions. 10% of the population is playing football. And so our challenge here in Bend has been, it didn't take me, or in Redmond here, has been the Bend schools, obviously. When you're talking about competing against schools that are 14 to 1,600 students, socioeconomic challenges, Redmond's really taken it in the head and everywhere else regarding our athletic success. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but we're moving to a new league. We think it's going to make us better. So the AD position change. All change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. I started a consulting company to high school athletic directors about 5 years ago. I worked on a PhD in the area of sport pedagogy and character ed, and my goal was to figure out how to teach character on purpose through high school sport. And I ended up writing a book for high school ADs, got to speak in 15 different states to high school athletic directors. I know of no situation in those 15 states like the one currently we have in Redmond, where there's one athletic director over 2 schools. There are athletic directors that oversee athletic directors at schools, but nobody that I know of that's doing what I'm doing currently. And that was one of the things that actually attracted me to the job. I've spent 10 years as a college AD at 3 different colleges. I coached college and high school basketball and college tennis, and love the opportunity that athletics has to have an impact on participants. So when I saw this opportunity here, it really was, it made me very aggressive in pursuing it and trying to win this job. So the opportunity to give district-wide leadership is one of the things that attracted me. So rather than just one school, I'm having the opportunity right now to develop an athletic program, really K-12, and throughout the entire community, not just at one high school. And we believe that's going to result in some great success down the line. I love kids. I've been working with high school students since early 80s, where I was on the staff with Young Life and coaching high school basketball, and then was an area director for Young Life and kept coaching, and then was a college basketball coach. And loved being around students this age. It was a very impactful time in my life, and thrilled to be able to do that as well. So the job itself is multifaceted. Every day is new. I've been at both schools already today, both high schools. Met with the coach, met with the principal, met with the football staff from Redmond to talk about the future of the football program there. Here, I'm speaking tonight at another event here in the community. I'm doing a coach evaluation this afternoon. I'm meeting with our high school SALT program, which I'll explain to you about. Sierra's a part of it, Ridgeview. But these are the things that drive me, I guess, is all the things I get to do every day. It's a variety. You know, as we can see, this guy here, he's got a lot of things going on. So I get to do a lot of different things, which is good for my personality. I'd be hard if I was sitting in a room doing the same thing every day. It's a joy to be with student athletes in a number of different formats, to be with parents. As I get older, I think I'm getting better with parents, so I hope. Talking about eligibility, transportation, scheduling, working with our state organization, all those things that go into this job. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. What we're going to do here in Redmond is create a transformational sports culture that will last for years and will have an impact on the participants like it never has before. Culture is how we think, how we act, and how we interact. And right now I would say we have a pretty disjointed sport culture in Redmond. My perception is that we're really pretty committed to mediocrity. We really don't care that much if we succeed. We have teams available, but we're really not that concerned that we do well. And I think excellence is, thanks for coming, you guys. Thank you. I think excellence is something that sports can teach that leaps out in other areas of our life if we demand it. And we seem to be doing that in some areas academically. Athletically, we have fits and starts. This year at Ridgeview, girls soccer went to the quarterfinals, the final 8. Volleyball went to playoffs, and boys soccer at Ridgeview went to playoffs. So we had a couple teams involved, and but overall, our football record at both schools was 2-16. I've gotten one phone call. Now I would expect in a community like this, with 2 high schools that go 2-16, that my phones would be flooded and my email would be bouncing off the line about, I can't believe how bad we are. I've gotten one email. And that's okay. I'd like to create higher expectations and a sense of excellence that we can build something significant. So culture is what it's all about. And again, because of this opportunity I have a chance to help build that culture. Transformational sports culture, what we really want out of kids is they show up at our athletic program, they experience it, and when they get done, they're different. And when I say that, I mean that character is built intentionally in the life of a student. It's not built by teachable moments. It's not built because the coach says it at the beginning of the year and then talks about it at the parent meeting at the end. If we aren't as intentional about teaching character as we are about teaching sports skills, we can guarantee ourselves not to teach character. So what I'm challenging our coaches to do is to think about how we're going to do that. In all the different sports individually, they all lend themselves to different types of opportunities. I was trying to get to every practice in the winter the last couple of days. I got to see wrestling yesterday at Redmond. I went in the pool and saw both teams swimming. I was over and saw basketball practices at both schools. They all have unique opportunities to teach things on purpose, so we're going to make sure that they do. It's another classroom, it's co-curricular, it's educational based if we make it so. Those phrases sound great only if we actually do it. And that's what I'm going to hold our coaches to do, is to make sure that we do that. So I think excellence and character are two of the things that sports can teach. John Wooden said, sports doesn't teach character, it reveals it. And I used to think as a high school coach in AD that you threw a uni on, you went to practice, and you kind of learned character. And that's not true. You'll have a number of frustrated coaches that every day try to coach kids with skills that after the practice is over are very frustrated the kids didn't learn the skills better. Well, it's the same thing with character. If we're not intent on teaching those things on purpose every day, kids are not going to learn them. And I challenge our coaches to say, take any sport and any skill. Let's just say it's tackling. We don't talk about tackling the first day of football practice and then call it good and we'll talk about it at the end. We talk about tackling every single day because it's important. Character is more important because it's the thing that's going to have a lifelong impact through sport. So I'm challenging our coaches to try to live that out. There are two types of character. There is moral character, which is honesty, justice, respect, responsibility, and love. And then there's social character, performance character. And these are the things that we would talk about more frequently about athletics. Teamwork, work ethic, sacrifice, all those things. And those are all good for the workforce, but I can tell you this, when you're facing a divorce or you're going through a hard time, those aren't the things that are going to save you. It's the moral characteristics that you're challenged to live out that are actually going to have that impact. And for our coaches, what I'm really challenging them to do is to love our kids. And to tell them they love them, because that's what it's about. And if we don't have coaches passionate enough to tell kids that they love them, we're never going to have that impact. And we are going to have that impact, I can tell you that. Excellence. We are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence is not an act, but a habit. What we're trying to teach our kids every single day is a habit of excellence. That will carry over to every single area of their life. And they will have a successful life because they've been committed to a value that will speak of their effort and their desire to be their very best. So that's one of the things we're challenging our kids every day to do, and our coaches as well. We gave a book out to every single coach in our district this year at both high schools called Inside Out Coaching by a guy named Joe Ehrman, who was on the front of Parade magazine about 9 years ago. And they said he was, at that time, called the most influential coach in America. And Joe believed that if you look inside as a coach and test your own values, and he said there's 4 questions that every coach needs to ask. Why do I coach? Why do I coach the way I do? What's it like to be coached by me? And how do I define success? If we can get every one of the coaches at both high schools to answer those questions appropriately and to have to reflect on the inside, we require kids to reflect every day. Don't do it this way, do it this way. No, I want it done that way. No, I want a better effort. We need to demand the same of our coaches. And I tell you this, one of the most humbling and frustrating things to me is to be around educators that don't want to be teachable. We're out there every day for 4 months teaching our kids to be coachable, and then when I go talk to a coach that's not coachable, I have very little patience for that. So when kids see adults that are teachable, it opens them to be teachable as well. When coach can come to practice and go, gosh, you know what, last night's game, I wish I would have done X, Y, and Z, I'm really sorry, you guys. Or I got really mad yesterday at Sierra, but I want you to know Sierra and I are fine, or whatever it might be. We have to be able to say that to kids. We're also student athletes, and just this fall, here's the academic success of kids in these sports at both high schools. Cross country at Redmond was the #1 team in the state, complete 4.0 by their cross country team. That's impressive, okay? Football at Ridgeview was #4 in the state. And we can make jokes about kids, we can make jokes about our athletes if they're really not students. The kids in our district, I can tell you, take their academics very seriously. I was talking to somebody yesterday who said at Redmond that 5 of the sophomores on the varsity football team at Redmond are 4.0s. And they said, man, it would have been nice if some of our seniors would have had 4.0s, but our sophomores did. It's something to build on that, right? And both those schools have some just tremendous. Sierra is one of the neatest kids I've ever met in my life. And she is involved in everything. I mean, you can't mention her name around school that people don't know her. She would have been at basketball practice had she not had a pretty horrendous knee injury. She would have been a 3-sport athlete. Great tennis player, great soccer player, leader, and I'll tell you a story a bit more about that in a minute here. We have a new league affiliation coming, the Intermountain Conference. We've been a part of this league now for the last 4 years. The OSAA every 4 years gives you a new time block and a new league. So we have been battling since I joined to make sure that we stayed in that league with the Dalles, Crook County, Hood River, Pendleton, and then the 2 Redmond schools. That's going to make it much more equitable and a chance for us to compete. I'm not saying we're going to win state titles necessarily or win league titles, but it'd be nice not to go to a game and go, gosh, I just hope we don't get beat by 30. There was a couple weekends here in football where we literally got beat, both teams, 110 to 25. You know, that's not equitable. And so to go into this new situation for us is going to be great. The Ben schools are going to Salem. They're going to play in the 6A league, the biggest schools in the state. And God bless them, good luck. We're tired of hearing about Ben.
Schools again? How big are the men's schools each?
They're 14 to 1,600. And they're about ready to start to build a new high school as well. And their growth is right now about 400 to 600 kids a year, where we're growing at about 100. So they literally can build almost a new school every year, whatever that school might be. And they're talking about building a new high school right now. So it's quite a mismatch. We're working on a situation right now. The Duffs have been a part of that so far, called the Ideal Athletic Program. Some of you may want to jump in and help us out. But we're asking the question, what does the Ideal Athletic Program look like in Redmond, Oregon? Not what does it look like at Summit High or Jesuit High or any other place, but right here in Redmond. If we're going to have the best possible opportunity for kids to compete, what does it look like? So this past month, we gathered about 40 of us at Ridgeview High in the skybox. We asked that question of the group. We threw up some paper on the walls and we had everybody give some answers as to what they thought the Ideal Athletic Program looks like. The result of this will be a 3 to 5 year strategic plan that we'll put into place to make sure that our athletic program is the very best it can be. And it has been really fun to have the conversations around this, to connect with people around the topic, to think about the things we can do together. I am sure that my energy and my passion and all those things are great, but it's not going to happen without the rest of the folks jumping in to help, especially with local knowledge, as I've learned very quickly as I was walking down the hall at Ridgeview on one of my first days there and found out that the bookkeeper is the sister of the superintendent. Those things are helpful to know. And almost every time I go to a game, I learn that, oh, that's Kerry Penhollow, and he's doing this and this, and I can't even keep up with his family, but it was like, oh my gosh, you got to be really careful what you say and who you say it to. I've learned that very quickly. I always wondered why somebody didn't do something, then I realized I am somebody. And that's what we're challenging our community to do, is if you really care about the high school athletic program, then it's time to do something. Not just say, I wish, or we could, but together, how can we create the best possible opportunity for our kids? For now and for the future. If we can put some things in place, I think that Redmond can be a force in the athletic program, which, by the way, has an impact on the school community. When you see kids lined up at Ridgeview High to welcome their team to go down through this tunnel so as they go off to playoffs, it creates a community pride, a school pride, parents, grandparents, residents that says, wow, you know, we got something cool going on. Now, we don't want things that happen like at UCLA over the weekend when they had their kids out stealing stuff in China. That's not our desire. And if we can get our coaches to teach character on purpose, we know that we'll have less and less of that. So that's really the end result of building a transformational athletic program here in Redmond, and that's kind of my primary goal as I think about coming here. So, questions you might have? Yes, ma'am.
How do you see the community being engaged?
Currently?
What's your vision for the future for how the community should be engaged?
Well, K-12. So we've got folks that are involved in our youth sport community. If you go to a really good high school athletic program, they've got a really good youth sport program. So we need parents involved, community members involved from K to 12 to start to develop skills, that sport is fun, that they have the means, they have the facilities that they need to actually have a quality program. That's one way. Fundraising, unfortunately. Kids are paying a participation fee to play. I know in the 70s I didn't pay a fee. It was part of the regular school, you were part of your school expectation that you could go and play a sport. So that'd be another way. And I think joining in this process, as we get more adults that say, hey, I'm in, this is gonna be a 6 to 8 month process that in June we hope comes out with a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. So I think there's so many different ways, and what I want is people doing what they are good at doing in this process. Not let's fit a round peg in a square hole and have you feel good, but where do you feel like you fit? Is it marketing? Is it strategic planning? Is it helping us recruit great coaches here? You know, where is it? We just have 1,000 things we could do.
Mike McIntosh, superintendent, talked about the individual who I think maybe was the athletic director or is now trying to do the fundraising, take some of the pressure off parents. Right? Can you tell us how that's going?
Mark Horner.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark was a middle school vice principal.
Right.
And a high school vice principal, and he is working really hard at trying to raise $1 million and take care of our participation fees for the year, and that's tournaments, which he's scheduling some, got a big youth basketball tournament coming. We have some great examples that Mark's trying to follow. Medford has put together, and Seaside. Seaside has blown up what they've done with just their basketball tournaments. It just started as a fundraising opportunity for a high school basketball program, but now is engaged fully the business community. You have people coming there every weekend. They're staying in hotels. They're spending money in restaurants. Those people are gold to the business community, and they've embraced it. So that's kind of what we want to do here.
You like that model?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, especially here. I mean, my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, we had an example, and he may have told you, but we had a baseball tournament here last June that had over 100 teams that paid $1,200. The district got $4,500. The guy who put the tournament on walked away with 96 grand out of our community because he charged every team $1,200. Well, we need to reverse that.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
yeah.
So I had a similar question. In the past, we had a member who was very active in the Booster Club at Ridgeview. Her son was in baseball. And she told us about they were doing fundraising activities. And I always wondered, what's going on at Redmond baseball, or what's going on with golf at Redmond or Ridgeview, or water polo, or different things, you know. But maybe your other question, ask it. But, you know, you saw one sport that had some active parents. But what's going on with the other sports, you know?
Yeah, you know, I think I get to use this answer for the first 2 years. I'm new here, and I have no idea. I would say, you know, what we're trying to do is to have every sport not just raise money to raise money, but if they have an actual need. So I know baseball at one point was raising money for a trip to go somewhere. So that was one of the things that they're raising money for. They have $10,000 in an account to try to put in a hitting cage.
Yeah.
So, you know, just being in the middle, as this one coach called me this week, you're really Switzerland. Your job is to just kind of make peace between the two countries. I said, well, I hope it's more than that.
Yeah.
But, you know, once you do something at Redmond, the expectation is why are you doing it at Ridgeview? So Redmond's got a batting cage, Ridgeview doesn't. Those kind of issues come up every single time almost anything happens.
Maybe to follow that up with another specific
Yeah.
question. In the past, Kiwanis has supported the ski clubs at both the high schools
Yeah.
here, but it's not a sanctioned OSAA sport.
Correct.
So how does that, there are other sports like that, no doubt.
Yeah, water polo is one of them, lacrosse is another.
How do those fit into your plans?
Well, those aren't on my plans. That's not part of my job description. Those are clubs. And some of them, even cheer is considered an activity by the OSAA. Band, choir, drama, cheer. And then you've got some other disparate organizations, OSET, a number of other things going on. I try to support any advisor that wants to talk to me, but you know, once you start getting involved,
Yeah.
you're involved. And so I've been told you got enough to do. I've also been given responsibility for the 2 middle school athletic programs to oversee them. So I would say I'm busy enough. I'm not looking for, as much as I want to support kids in those great activities, I'm focusing on the OSAA stuff. And then I try to meet with, I've been with the Ridgeview Booster Club several times, trying to get that same thing going over at Redmond, but we need that support, obviously, throughout the year. So that may not fully answer your question. Yes, ma'am.
How is the attendance at the games? You're having basketball games now and stuff?
We won't start playing basketball games and wrestling and swimming till the end of the month. Right around the beginning of, I think it's the 29th of November, it starts the season. They start practice on Monday. They get about 2 weeks to practice and they start playing games. So we'll know then. Attendance at football?
Can you go? The community can just go?
Absolutely, yeah, there's a cost for a ticket. But yeah, you can show up at anything you want to. And you can buy a pass for the season if you want, if you're going to come to a bunch of things.
Just look in the newspaper or something?
You can do that, or you can look on the website
What?
for either school and they'll have the schedule on there.
Oh, thank you.
But, oh, absolutely, we'd love to have all of you at a game. In fact, we'd love to have a Kiwanis night if you want to come to We do have 3 times this year where we're going to stack games and play Ridgeview versus Redmond all in one game at one site. So if you want to come watch both JV teams, both varsity teams, that will happen 3 times this year, this season, which will be a really fun event. And I thought Redmond and Ridgeview football was really fun, although, like that one coach said, I did feel like I was Switzerland. You know, I said to him, hey, good luck, and he goes, yeah, you're probably saying that to the other guys too, and I said, yeah, I am. And I got to know the Ridgeview girls volleyball pretty good this year when they played. I was announcing both volleyball at Ridgeview and volleyball at Redmond matches, because we couldn't find anybody to step up to do that. And one match, when they played each other, the Ridgeview girls came up to me and said, you really like us better, don't you? I said, you know, I love you, and I want you to do as well as you can. That's what you get to answer. So.
Kevin, I have a question. You have such a big responsibility with both schools and now the middle schools. Do you have enough support to, like, do you have people that help and go to the other games that you can't be at and those kinds of things?
That's a good question. Thank you. Yeah, I get paid person, we call them site supervisors for every season, so someone is responsible other than me to make sure the game actually takes place. I have athletic secretaries. I have offices actually at both high schools, not at the district office, so even though I'm a district AD, I have an office at Ridgeview and an office at Redmond, and so I try to get to both every day so I can connect with coaches and kids. And we're trying to make sure this is a brand new deal so that we get the support that we need. So thank you. Thanks for asking. Yes, sir.
Couple questions. Can you give me, or would you give me an example of how you tie pedagogy with sports and with a subject matter?
Like character, for instance, or you mean just skills?
Well, beyond
or
character.
Okay, so my understanding of character is taught in 3 ways. Okay, modeling, education, and environment. So my job is to help define what I say. When we say character, heads nod. It's similar to this joke, where is it scrotum or is it sternum? Someone says character, everybody's head nods. We have 50 different opinions of what character means. So I define character as honesty, respect, responsibility, love, and justice. I think those are values that our coaches ought to be teaching on purpose. So my job is to help define what it is I expect them to teach and how I expect them to go about teaching it. And coaches are all over the map on how they're doing that. Our cross-country coach divided our kids up. Monday was justice, Tuesday was respect, Wednesday was responsibility, Thursday was honesty, and Friday was love. And the kids themselves are responsible for bringing a 2 to 3 minute message on their day to share with their teammates what that meant. Coach then, every day, could point out something that happened in practice that related back to those values. So I think for me, it's defining what the expectation is, being really clear about it, and then holding them accountable by asking, how's it going?
So the question I guess I was probing is whether or not your pedagogy includes bringing other classroom disciplines or subject matter to the sport and vice versa. In other words, I'm playing basketball, but I'm also learning geometry.
Well, you bet.
So
Yeah,
how
I'd
do you do
say,
that?
it depends on the expertise of the coach in that regard, whether they're a math person or a science person or a, English person or whatever in terms of that direct impact. I can tell you that our kids are being held accountable to their academic success. And so we do have study halls. That is a varied situation depending on what time they practice and who's there, but the goal is to help kids be successful academically. And then have our coaches see their coaching responsibility as bigger than just technique and tactic. Because I would tell you that 90 to 95% of coaches see their goal and their role is teaching tactic and technique, which is never going to change a kid's life. So that's my constant refrain. Right now, we're in the buy-in phase. I'm trying to get coaches to understand what we're talking about and begin to implement. I'd love to say, hey, this thing's just hit the beach rolling and off we go. We're all over the map in terms of some that are dragging their feet, some that are moving ahead, some that are asking questions, and we're trying to do that more every day.
So one final question. In your strategic thinking, how many years is it going to be before tackle football is no longer a high school sport?
It's a great question. There's an ad hoc committee right now across our state that's studying football. This is the 9th straight year football numbers have been down. We're down 800 across the board this year, statewide. We had 52% of 5A teams, which is Redmond and Ridgeview, had less than 3 teams. We had 32% of 6A schools had less than 3 teams to play. So, for instance, South Eugene, 1,900 kids, had 29 kids out for football. So with the concussion situation, those challenges, cost, all those different things, it's become quite a challenge. And my major professor at University of Idaho said it's 20 years before we don't have football anymore. And I know some of our high school coaches wouldn't disagree with that. Our numbers are down a little bit in youth football, statewide and regionally. So we've got to do some things. They're studying it right now. They may allow teams to play, like if you've had a bad couple of years, play down, so you can try to attract more kids. You can see the numbers earlier. We had 93 kids come out at Redmond this year and 62 at Ridgeview. And that's a pretty decent number for our size schools. But we didn't get to play JV season this year at Ridgeview. And for a lot of the season, with only 5 healthy linemen at Redmond, we didn't really play a JV season. So it's a very challenging situation. It's a really astute question, actually. So, yes, sir.
Would character would it include kicking a kid off the team if he were caught violating a rule?
Not if he's a starter. Okay, there's no way. No, I'm just kidding. Do I have to call 911 right now? Okay. Yes, absolutely.
And the team, and forfeiting a game if the team violated some rule?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's normal, which is why we try to do such a good job on the upfront. You know, kids, we have to look at their grades. We have to look at, they have to pay, they have to have so many classes they pass, so many classes they're enrolled in, and then they have to be good citizens. I mean, I've had conversations yesterday with both basketball coaches about specific kids. One kid that they're thinking about including on a team that's quit the last 3 years. And I said, well, why would you put that kid on a team? You know, he's already shown a pattern of just quitting. Why would you take an opportunity away from another kid to that kid who's already shown he's really not committed? Another kid wanted to play select soccer, asking the coach, if he doesn't make it, can he come back? I said, really? I mean, you know, do we need the number that bad? And so we need committed kids that really want to be there every day. It's hard work. You know, basketball looks a lot more fun to me than watching wrestling practice, but for those wrestlers, they don't feel that way. So, yes, sir.
You talk about the commitment thing, and I'll just use an example at the Little League level with baseball. You have a lot of kids doing a travel team, a lot of kids not doing a travel team, and a lot of those kids, the travel team goes both ways. And when those kids are in town for weekend games, that's great, or evening games, that's great. But when those kids are gone on a weekend and half the team's gone and you can't fill a full team with the kids that are left, that's not real fair to those kids that signed up. So I guess a question on is there a way to handle, you know, the travel situation with regard to that? And then the other, a quick second question is attendance at football games. We went to quite a few games this year, and that middle section at Redmond, and in the stands at Redmond, it's where Vern Patrick, Mike's dad, did all the labels, all the names for all those sponsors. A lot of those people aren't coming to those games anymore. Is there a way we can reach out to those people and find a way to get those seats available for people to use?
Yeah, I'd say, John, to answer your first question, we have got to get our hands around the whole big picture of youth sport. And so I know those parents that say, I want my kid playing at the highest possible level. I don't care about the rest of the kids in the community. I'm taking my 7 kids and off we go. That's one approach. We'd like to build Redmond kids in Redmond, doing the best possible things for Redmond. And so that's a message that's going to take some time. We're going to have a youth sports summit sometime in the next 2 months. We're going to try to get every youth sport connected person that wants to come to talk about how do we do this the best possible way. That would be my answer to that, is we got a lot of work to do. And then to your second question, I would say, you know, success tends to follow personality. And coach that was here at the time that those things got done is gone. And often when that coach leaves, a lot of the impetus, you know, I started a Hall of Fame at Aloha High School when I was the athletic director there. When I left, they're just starting their 2nd class. Well, I started it in 2001. So, you know, the person leaves that had the motivation behind it, and now they're waiting. So I would say that's part of the challenge about putting people's names on there. And then as people get older and they lose the connection to the coach or to the other coaches or the community, they don't come back. So that's a challenging situation. If it were up to me, I'd take all the names off. So there isn't that feeling that, oh, when we're there, what's going on there? And everyone felt either they could sit in the middle or they're going to pay it a little bit extra to sit in the middle, which is why those names got on there originally. Okay.
That's not why they got on there. Why the names were on there is those were the sponsoring individuals that paid for that grandstand. That's
Okay.
why they're on.
That's good to know. See, and that's, as a new guy, I can step in it every day.
Well, and we were the group that did that, so there's a little bit of sensitivity here.
Right.
You know,
Like I said, we're leaving those names on there because you're the folks that paid for the grants hit, so. But those are the kind of things that I have a lot to
Well,
look at.
and I'm not saying it's appropriate anymore. I think
No.
John just poses a great question because
Right.
many of those guys are no longer there, no longer here.
I think there's still a way you could honor those people.
Gotta be a way.
That
Gotta be a way.
contributed to
Yeah.
a board or a plaque or something like that, but, you know, and or reach out to the people that bought those seats and hey, I'll pay an extra $100 for those seats.
And one of the things, you know, I can work with our coaches on that. I have to focus on the things that I know I can control, and I really want our head coaches of our sports to take ownership. Instead of, you know, if I was a one school AD, I would expect them to depend on me more for those things. But that's a great conversation point for our new football coach at Redmond, is to talk about what are we gonna do? You know, how are they gonna market themselves? Because I know that when Rooker was there, it was parking, signage, seats, you know, all the different things that he did. When he left, that kind of didn't continue as much.
He's also the reason why we have a youth football program.
Right, absolutely. And see, that youth football program is great. The thing I like about it most is it's not a Redmond, it's not a Ridgeview, it's Redmond, not a Redmond High. So.
Talked about teachable moments. It's kind of interesting in today's newspaper, you made reference to UCLA and the 3 freshman kids. One of those kids is the son of the family that the older brother just is playing for the Lakers now. The father said, it's really not a big deal. It's not a big deal that you went to China and could have ended up in prison for 7 years and you represented the school horribly. And the question was, are they going to suspend the kids? And Neuheisel lost his job at UCLA as a football coach because he did just that. He took 3 kids that were going to be starters. They broke rules. He kicked them off the team. He did the right thing. And it ended up costing him ultimately, but he still did the right thing. UCLA's faced with that same situation with these 3 kids. They need to be gone. But you can see the atmosphere is like, well, I'm the best player on the team. Why would you kick me off? Because you're a jerk. Because you did the wrong thing. That starts at home. And just what you're talking about. So my point is, I think the involvement with parents and families and getting that message across early through the youth programs is one of the best things we can all do.
Really true. Yeah, it's very sad to see, you know, really a university get a big, you know, mark on themselves because of the behavior of their kids in a foreign country. I mean, one of the things they were talking about on sports radio today as I was driving over here is if those were, quote, normal college kids that had done that, they'd be in prison right now.
Yeah, well,
But
for a long time.
Because they're high-profile athletes, they tend to get out. And that's what I mean about what character truly is. And character is not letting kids that do the things that are stupid out of their stupidity. It's making them pay the price. Well, what a pleasure to be with you. Thanks so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it.